Fanservice typically refers to extra added scenes in movies or video games for the sole purpose of pleasing their audience. If you are an anime watcher, you've likely run into the classic beach episode staple. The most common type of fanservice is typically sexual by teasing the audience with revealing outfits, a character's physique, or something else. A very common topic among gacha games is surrounding fanservice. These games need to market the characters to specific audiences in order for sales to be made. As such, certain decisions are made by the developers to add fanservice-like elements to their characters. However, I've seen a big common misconception in these conversations. A character that leans into fanservice doesn't automatically make them a bad design. The amount of times I've read that because this character shows skin that they must be a bad design has gotten a bit frustrating. This is a common point I also have to reiterate a lot in my videos. I'll keep it real with you guys. I personally am not a huge fan of fanservice. I don't like how abrupt and unnatural a lot of fanservice tends to be, especially when it's obvious a company is only adding this in to try and squeeze my wallet dry. In Zenless Zone Zero, there is a character named Seed that was released. This character frustrates me because she actually has a decent agent story. Learning about Seed Senior and her struggles to understand human emotions is interesting, not to mention the heartbreak that was that last scene. If you know, you know. Instead of Seed being known as this decently written character that uses a cool mech in battle, she's instead remembered for being the feet girl, all because the developers decided she needed to appeal to a certain demographic. This is the type of fanservice that makes me want to pull my hair out. It's obvious, it's unnatural, and it takes away from the overall character. Heck, you can even argue that Zenless Zone Zero as a whole game falls into this. The game is often referred to as Gooner bait or a Gooner game, and it kills me because there's a really good story that the developers are trying to tell with a lot of charming characters. Season 2 did have a quality dip in their writing, for sure, but there's still lots of interesting twists and turns I can't wait to see unfold in the game's story. It makes me sad to realize that there are plenty of potential players who would probably enjoy this game but won't pick it up because of how blatantly in your face the fanservice is. When Escoffier first released, I made a video a while back discussing if Genshin was starting to lean too far into fanservice. Not only did we get a bunch of bathhouse scenes before her release with Mizuki, but Escoffier is a chef wearing lingerie with a succubus forktail. Her apron doesn't also cover her side boob, making her design lean into the sexual elements of fanservice. Does that make her design bad? I wouldn't say so. It's still pretty, and I can tell when looking at her that she is definitely a chef. At the same time, does it make Escoffier look a little bit ridiculous? I would say so. I think when the design leans too heavily into fanservice, they begin to feel more like those silly, sexy Halloween costumes, and that's when fanservice starts to negatively affect a design for me. More recently, I discussed Promea's design from Zenless Zone Zero as she goes from being covered up with an angular cape to a revealing swimsuit-like outfit underneath. Many players felt this was a jarring contrast and discussed whether it was really necessary to have her exposed like this. After learning that she is part of a faction that has a circus-like theme, it's easier to pick up that she might be an escape artist, especially with her being handcuffed and breaking those in combat to fight. Her trailers also tackle some pretty heavy themes, so having a more mature design might fit Promea. I personally am not a fan of her design, but I can see why that we have the fan service that we do with her. It doesn't look like it was slapped on there for the heck of it like it felt like for the character Seed. Raiden Shogun is a very well-loved design from Genshin Impact, well, aside from when she was first revealed, but that was a long time ago. Raiden Shogun has fanservice-like elements to her design. Her kimono is showing a lot of her upper chest, and the flap in the front is short. In fact, her kimono flap in the front was so short they had to alter her introduction cutscene so we weren't getting flashed, which is kind of funny in a ridiculous way. While Raiden Shogun isn't one of my favorite designs, there's a lot to love about her. The color palette blends so well with all of the different purples, the long braid, and the fact that she pulls a sword out of her chest. Now, that chest sword was a way of giving fan service while also showing just how badass Raiden Shogun is as a character. That's the kind of fan service I can get behind. We won't talk about her first story quest, that was essentially a date though, come on. What was that? What I want to convey to you in this video is that fan service and showing some skin doesn't automatically make a design suck. At the same time, there are plenty of fan service like designs that do suck and feel lazily thrown together for a quick buck. When fan service takes away from the core elements of a character, that's when I start to have a problem. You can have fan service enhance a character's appeal without detracting from other elements of their character. On the topic of fan service, I do need to bring up censorship. Despite how many times I say that fan service isn't bad, I get people claiming that I am pro-censorship for not liking revealing designs. That is just my personal preference, just like it might be your personal preference that you enjoy these types of designs. There's actually a really big problem right now with censorship of the media. There is a game called Snowbreak. I am not very familiar with this game, so if I get anything wrong in the next section, please correct me in the comments below. Snowbreak is labeled as a 3D waifu shooter title that recently underwent an extensive 2-month maintenance. Upon completion of that maintenance, many of the fan service-like elements of the game were removed, including but not limited to certain physics, removal of entire animations, and some scenes were also just entirely ripped from the game. I'm even reading that some of the paid content got affected and altered as well. As I'm not a huge fan of fan service, Snowbreak is definitely not in my target audience. But I don't like the idea of games being censored just because it has more mature themes. You might cheer today because a design you didn't like got covered up more, or a game that you don't like got censored, but you won't be cheering when censorship gets more aggressive and comes after the designs that you like and the games that you play. For my Genshin players, were you around when Amber, Jean, Rosaria, and Mona got censored? Some of the censorship was just like a small changing of Amber's shorts and some colors in her outfit to a full cover-up of Rosaria's design. There is also the concern of payment processors dictating what platforms can and cannot have for sale. That's a whole other conversation, but I want to convey that we shouldn't be cheering when fan service is censored, even if we may prefer the censored version over the original. You might have seen some anime screenshots of original shows versus a censored version in another country online. The one I've seen the most recently was One Piece and its censored version in China. Art is beautiful because we can express the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly parts of life. I'd really hate for anyone's artistic visions to be squandered because a payment processor, the government, or whoever else decided it was not allowed. When fan service can lead to poor designs, it doesn't automatically make them bad. When it comes to character design especially, a lot of it is subjective. If you've watched any of my other character design videos, you know that this is just my opinion and I'm not an expert in any way. You might like it or you might not, but let's not cheer for censorship. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I talk about character design and gacha games a lot on my channel, so if that sounds like your jam, feel free to check out some of my other content. I hope to see you in the next one.